Alright, my name's Dan Stenson, I'm 22 years old and I live in Cheltenham.
Okay, why don't you tell us, Dan, about why you decided to do social confidence?
From a young age I used to be bullied a lot from my weight, and I've always been socially awkward through that. Because I was bullied, I would always watch cartoons, probably to an age that I should have given it up. Did a lot of art, and as I grew up, obviously where every person hits puberty, I realised that my body was changing and I was getting thinner through growing up. And then I met a friend who told me about ways you can improve yourself socially, like, for example, your looks, your mentality, your confidence. Perhaps I was a bit iffy about it. Does this work? Does it not work? But I thought life's all about improving yourself, so I thought, let's see what this guy's got.
Okay, this is now coming to the end of your second lesson with us today. If you'd like to visualise and try to remember as much as your first lesson with us, how did you feel when we first sat down? Did you feel safe, secure, welcoming? Were you excited or a bit anxious?
With the first lesson, obviously, because I knew the person that was doing it, like who was being my tutor for it, that was more of a big, how do you put it, a lot of pressure taken off because I knew the person who was teaching me, so thus it was easier to get along with him, so we could have more of a laugh for what we were doing in the lessons.
Cool.
And he's a lovely guy, I love him like a brother. I do. I'd say after the first lesson it left me a lot more confident than I thought I was going to be, because while I was at work, for some strange reason, I was so happy, I was full of confidence, and I just was wide awake, even though I had a bad night's sleep the night before. But I enjoyed how I felt, and I think from what he taught me was, if you feel tired, you're going to act it, and so on and so on. But if you change that to a positive outlook, you're going to then show it that you're positive, you're acting positive, and you will appear it, and people will notice that.
Cool.
While you're being positive.
For entertaining, on average, one lesson a month. How are you finding that, with the space in between the lessons, to give yourself time to go over the content we've gone through and to play around with the methods we've gone through?
I think it's a lot easier because it gives me a chance to reread the chapters that I have got each week. Well, I should say every day, because I read it more like a story.
Yes.
I read because obviously there's like there's less pages for the chapters, to say like the first chapter's 7 pages, chapter 2 could be 14 pages. It's easy to read, so it could take less than maybe an hour to read a chapter or 2 chapters or 3 chapters if you have them. So you're always reading it, so thus if you start reading those chapters from the next day on from your lessons, it's always going to be fresh in your mind until the next chapter and your next lesson. So it's always going to be fresh in your mind until it becomes second nature, like my teacher who knows it just like that.
Okay, we're now coming to the end of your second lesson. How do you feel about the information you've been shared with you today?
Right, to a lot of new people, it's a lot to take in. Believe me, now it's a lot to take in. But I think if you reread it a few times, you'll get the hang of it. And obviously, I've only had experience with one of the teachers, so I presume all the other teachers will be great help. But it's left me thinking, I can do it, I'm not the same as I was 10, 15 years ago. I want to keep improving myself because that's what life's about. Because since my father passed away a couple of months ago, I feel that I should improve myself. My life has changed now, and I should always improve myself, make myself a better person, so that I can always be there for the people that have always been there for me.
That's a really nice answer. And finally, Dan, would you recommend these lessons or these services to any of your friends?
I'd be stupid not to.
Thank you very
I
much.
will honestly admit that if you want to change your life and you want to make yourself better, take my advice. Follow Darren Rudman, because he is the best person I know for this department, and I believe that if you want to improve yourself and get a girlfriend, I reckon, he's the man to be there to help you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Cheers.